everybody. Welcome to the newest show on the Wrestling Religion Network. This is our first ever podcast. It's going to be called Super Smith Bros, and it's all about gaming. I am your host, Brandon Lee Smith, and joining me is my brother, Dylan Robert Smith, or better known as DR Smith. What's up, brother?
How you guys doing?
How us guys? We're doing great, man. It's just me here, but us guys are doing well. So we got a lot to talk about in the wake of Metal Gear Ground Zeroes releasing. We're also going to talk about free-to-play games. We're going to kind of talk about the entire Metal Gear franchise, because we talk about it all the time, which is why we're doing the show now, because we talk about video games all the time, because we're nerds.
Constantly.
The uncrowned prince of pro wrestling is a fucking nerd. So we decided to make a podcast to tell you guys what we think about video games. And that's why we're here. So to get us started, we're both very different gamers. I'm going to let Dylan tell everyone what kind of platform he prefers and what his top 5 favorite gaming franchises or standalone games are. Dylan, take it away, brother.
By far PC. PC is definitely the dominant platform and is my favorite by far. I've owned every other console, and PC stands out to me the most. Favorite games would definitely, going from 5 to 1, would definitely have to be, we'll say, reckoning as 5. 4 would definitely have to be Spec Ops: The Line, just for the sheer story. It's a very dark shooter. If you guys haven't played it, definitely go play it. It's a great game. Number 3 coming in as The Witcher 2. The Witcher 1 being my second favorite game, and Final Fantasy VIII being my favorite. I mean, I'm very torn between Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII. So, it's somewhere in there, yeah. It's a very hard list to make, your favorite games.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a lot like making our favorite wrestler list, which is something that nobody is able to do. I mean, it changes on a daily basis, and gaming is a lot like that.
Right.
My preferred platform of gaming is, right now it's PS3, but I've always been a console gamer. I've stayed away from computers until probably about sometime next month I'll be buying my first PC for gaming.
Best
in my
decision
favorite
ever.
franchises. I will see. We'll see. I'm probably still going to use the PS3 a lot, and I do intend to buy a PS4 at some point. But right now I'm very happy with my PS3, and I have been for quite a good many years. My favorite games, I'm just going to go with PS3 for now. Hey, you know what? Let's go back a little bit. My favorite franchises would be Castlevania, the Metal Gear series, and Final Fantasy up to Final Fantasy X. That gives me 2 standalones. Well, actually, another favorite series of mine is Hitman, and, oh, God, a standalone game. I need at least one. Let's go all time. Dude, this is hard. This was a bad idea. I'm going to go with the first.
It is very difficult. I'm not going to lie. Like, your top 5 favorite games and gaming franchises, there's so much to choose from. There's so many great games out of the past few years. And, I mean, recently not so much, but in the past, definitely some awesome, solid games out there, and choosing from them is nearly impossible. And I guarantee you that top 5 list will change over time, and almost any time you ask it, it's going to be different. Right,
and we could probably do this every week, and it would be a different answer. But for my number 1 pick, I'm going to go with Metroid on the NES, because it's one of the proudest games I have beaten. It's probably the most difficult game I've ever beaten, or at least up there at the top. So, Dylan, why do you think PC is the superior gaming platform?
Oh, definitely. Game selection is incredible. Most any game you could find for any platform, any console, even the older ones going back to Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, you can get it all right there on PC. And then with modern games, you're talking about phenomenal graphics. Assuming you have the right hardware to run it, that's automatically the assumption I make with a gaming PC, is that you have a high-end gaming PC and you are capable of doing everything that these games demand. Now, as far as graphics, playability, how smooth everything is, how nice everything looks, it's so perfect. The sound's great, the lighting's great, and the game selection is unparalleled, especially with Steam and PSN getting along so well. We're starting to see more older PlayStation games coming in, like the Tomb Raider series and Final Fantasy now. So, I mean, there's just nothing not to like.
I I agree with you at some points, but see, this is why we work so well, because we're so very different. At first when digital copies became popular and on PSN you could download games on release day, which I've done multiple times, and me and Dylan actually, and this is probably going to get us both banned from PSN, we actually share PSN accounts. For those of you listening, it's actually a pretty fucking smart thing to do, because now if a game comes out and we don't mind not owning the hard copy, we can both buy that game by pitching up like $30, for example, on a new game, and then we can both get the download, because PSN allows you to download the game on 2 separate consoles at a time. So we've used that to our advantage quite a few times, but I prefer the hard copies. Because right now it's kind of a transitional period in gaming for me, because I'm a console gamer, whereas PS4 is going to be coming out. Well, PS4 is out, but it's not out. PS4 is available, but it's utterly useless at this point. And
by far, yes.
I'm going to end up filling up my PS3 hard drive if I keep downloading games. So I kind of want to own the hard copy, but I prefer the console just because I think PS1 and Super Nintendo were the things that made me really become a gamer, and I just stay true to that. I like the idea of PC gaming, but I can't see, even when I own my PC, I don't think that'll be my primary means of gaming. Sure, I'll use it a lot, but my PS3 will still be very near and dear to my heart until it dies and PS4 actually starts doing something other than holding papers down in the wind.
That's about the best description for it right now, with the game selection being the best game out for it. Honestly, right now would have to be Battlefield 4, and that even has some major glitches, which I don't think we should go into that right now. That's a different show.
Well, no, let's talk about that for a minute, because there's not a ton to talk about. We could cover it all in one episode. I have a friend, a very near and dear friend, who owns a PS4, and I have access to it, and I've played it quite a bit, and some of the best games, the 2 best games that stand out to me on the PS4 right now are Don't Starve, which is an indie game, and it's also available on Steam, I believe. And also the other one is called Outlast, and it's a survival horror game, first-person type of zombie asylum craziness, and it's a really good game. It's very stressful. It kind of reminds me of Amnesia quite a bit.
Amnesia is a great game too. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, Amnesia is a great game, but it reminds me of Amnesia, except it's on a console now. So those 2 games are really cool, but they don't really cater to PlayStation fans because they're available on Steam. They're more PC ports over to kind of give us something to do. Other than that, if I were to buy a PS4, I really don't know what games I would buy with it right now. There's just not a whole lot of selection other than sports games and Battlefield.
With what I'm seeing is I actually believe that you're going to see more and more PC ports over to consoles just for the fact of content, especially on the PlayStation. Now, Xbox One, I don't know what's exactly going to happen with that, but PSN and Steam are getting along very well. They're starting to share games that normally you wouldn't have seen ever before on consoles or on computer. So I think we're going to see more and more ports from PC to PS4, and we're also going to see more of the older games being remade for PC, which is phenomenal. That's making it so owning both systems is going to be perfect.
And that's exactly what I've always thought. I always thought that having a PS3 and a PC would be the best combination of gaming for anybody. Again, I've never owned a PC, and that's mostly just because I find the thought of it's really tedious. Call me old-fashioned, but it's hard for me to make that jump right now. I just, I'm kind of stuck in my ways, and I'm stubborn as hell, so it's like, I want to do it.
All it takes is one great game to change your mind.
Well, it's not the gaming, because actually one of the reasons that, you're such a PC gamer, and of course I take credit for this, I'm the older brother, was The Witcher, when it had a 1-page advertisement in Game Informer back in, I want to say like 2004-ish, around that time. And it was one of the first times. It might have been later than I'm old, forgive me, but it was one of the first things I saw that really made me want to own a PC at that second.
Yes, and it was a phenomenal game. Actually, at the time that we bought The Witcher, my computer was not able to run it because I was an avid player of the dreaded game WoW, which will consume your life and your world and everything else, so don't play it, please. And it's an awful game. And my computer would not run it, but after I was able to run it, it actually turned out the original Witcher is a horrible game. Awful. The dialogue was horrible. Everything was awful with it. But then they came out with the Enhanced Edition, which fixed everything, and it was originally going to be released on consoles as the White Wolf, which got canceled. Unfortunately, that would have been a great game to have on console.
And I was so excited about that because at that time I had the PS3. I think it was right around the beginning of its life cycle, and our options on PS3, it was very similar to what's going on with PS4 now. Like we had Oblivion, Heavenly Sword, and a couple of bullshit games like Sid Meier's Civilization and Motorstorm, a game that came in the big 80-gig box when it first released. And, you know, I still love that system. It was a very different time for, I don't know what it is, but, again, with this PS4 launch, it's just very lackluster and unimpressive. I think that Titanfall might turn things around, might be the beginning of it, because a lot of games are going to be releasing here in the early spring and summer. So hopefully we're starting to see a turning point. But you know me, Dylan, also. Another thing about me is I'm a very cheap-ass gamer. I mean, if nobody picked that up earlier, we talked about how we share PSN accounts so we don't have to pay full price for games. Very cheap. There are a few franchises I will run out and grab right away, and that would include any of the WWE games. Yeah, I'm an idiot. But any of those games, Stick of Truth, I bought release day, the South Park game. That's because I'm a huge South Park fan and a huge fan of Obsidian. And also, there's one other. I said Grand Theft Auto, right?
No, you have not.
Yeah,
that would be one that you would definitely.
Okay, well, it'd be Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Auto WWE, and for some reason the Stick of Truth, which I think was a very worthwhile buy. So, Dylan, before we get into the Metal Gear series, which is probably going to take up the remainder of our show because we have a lot of opinions and years of pent-up frustration and joy over the Metal Gear series, let's talk about a game of the week. What game have you been playing the most of this week, and would you recommend it to our listeners?
Actually, this week I've been very intent on a game off of Steam. It's an indie game, and of course it follows suit with the survival horror games we've been seeing, which is an amazing genre. The survival genre is just incredible right now. It's really different from anything else we've ever seen in the recent years. And it's 7 Days to Die, and it's a great game. It's an alpha, it's early release, so if you play it, you can't complain too much. It's definitely going to have some issues. But the great thing that Steam has started is the early release games, early access. Some people would disagree with it, but if you go into it for the right reasons, knowing that the game's going to have problems, you can actually dip your hands into it in the Steam community and influence the game that you want to see. So if you find a game that's early access, like 7 Days to Die, which is an amazing survival horror zombie game, there's hordes of zombies, there's a lot of things to do, and it's truly difficult to survive, which is what you're looking for in a survival game. I mean, if it's so easy to survive and that's your only goal, there's no point to playing the game, and this game executes it perfectly, even in the alpha stage. I would argue it's better than a lot of games that are actually released. But if you do play early access games, please don't complain. If you have complaints, go into the community and talk about it. That way you can influence the game to be the way you want it to be.
Wow, using the internet for a positive thing. I never thought it'd be possible, but it looks like they've found a way. We're going to segue that into free games in just a sec, but this week, and actually last week, I picked up Far Cry 3 the day before I picked up Stick of Truth. And I'm the type of gamer that I usually pick one or two games at a time and I play them all the way through. I don't switch games very often. I have we found out a little bit ago when we were talking off the air, I have a ridiculous list of games that I've completed in my lifespan. It's almost kind of sad, but again, it gives me a sense of pride. But I've played a lot of video games, but the way I get through them so quickly is I stick to what I'm doing. And if I get bored, I'll switch over to the other game. But I don't play stacks of games at a time because that's how you end up not getting your money's worth. Again, cheap-ass gamer. And I don't think you get everything you can out of the experience when you switch around a lot. So anyway, I bought Far Cry 3, then I bought Stick of Truth. I played through Stick of Truth in probably 3 days, and then I jumped on Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is my game of the week, and I'd recommend it to absolutely everyone because we're talking about the survival genre, which, Dylan, I'm also becoming familiar with this week. Not this week, but in recent months since the release of the PS4 was my first chance to play a game like Don't Starve, which is a survival game. You don't want to be lost in the dark. You got to build fires, find food, hunt, build traps, build shelter, and things like that. And it's a really cool game. But I really like the genre, and I think Far Cry 3 is kind of a casual gamer's segue into that, because Far Cry 3, even though it's a first-person shooter, it's really essentially at its core kind of a survival game. No, you don't have to feed yourself to survive, but you do pick leaves to craft syringes, which give you health, buffs or whatever you need. You can craft from the environment. You need to kill animals and skin them to upgrade yourself to the point. Because, I mean, we play games and make fun of them a lot where you're just like, Metal Gear 1, for example. You're Solid Snake, you're a pixelated figure, and you're carrying about 20 to, 15, 20 guns on you at one time. And where the hell are all those guns at? Well, Far Cry 3 kind of answered that question because you start off with the ability to carry one weapon, and then you craft a better sling and you can carry two. And the cool thing, too, that I like about it is you never see any of this stuff. So it's kind of left to your imagination exactly what your character looks like, even though you do have a character who has a specific role in the narrative. His name is Jason. You've gone to this island with your friends to go skydiving and been kidnapped by evil pirates. The main antagonist is phenomenal. The voice acting is spot on. The storyline is engaging, and the gameplay is tremendous. So I would definitely recommend Far Cry.
Sounds like a phenomenal game. I've played it a little bit myself on the co-op side. The co-op side's a lot different. But overall, even the co-op side is completely enjoyable. You lose some of the RPG aspects, but the overall playability of the game is spot on. And if you have some friends, it's also very fun to play in co-op.
Yeah, it's an overall great game. I'm actually way more impressed with it than I thought it would be. And the reason I actually bought it was because I picked up... I started playing the demo for Far Cry Classic, and I forgot what a great game it was. I owned Far Cry 2, but I never finished it. Shame on me. And... yeah, man, I was at GameStop and I was looking at cheap games because I'm enjoying the new consoles because it's making all the PS3 games to go down in price. And I saw Far Cry and I was like, why not? And it turns out to be probably one of the best games I played this year, along with Truth, which was another tremendous game. But anyway, Dylan, we gave our recommendations. We've talked about our favorite games, our platforms, and what kind of personalities we have when it comes to gaming. Let's talk about some hot button issues right now.
Okay.
You have been pretty adamant about discussing free-to-play, which is something I know little about, but I'm going to go ahead and let you lay the landscape for that.
Right. Free-to-play games are a fairly new idea. Actually, oddly enough, they somewhat sprout from World of Warcraft, which World of Warcraft in the day was a great game. Further expansions kind of ruined it, but as they did, these new games, these new MMORPGs, and all kinds of different games were coming out trying to compete with this powerhouse World of Warcraft, a multi-billion-dollar company of Blizzard. And as they come out, they're charging sub-fees, $15, $10 here a month to play the game, and whenever you have a powerhouse out like that millions of people are playing, you just can't compete. So how do you make your money back? You go free-to-play, and you have your microtransactions, which is you can buy weapons, armor, dyes, vanity pets, whatever, just to make some money. So people are more enticed to come to your game because it's absolutely free. You can get in there, just download it, play it. It's awesome. But then you have to, if you enjoy the game, you're more prone to want to buy the things. Now, there's a huge difference between free-to-play and pay-to-win. Now, whenever you're in a shop on one of these free-to-play games and all the best armors and weapons can only be bought with money. Now, those are the type of games you want to steer away from because they're just not worth your time. I mean, the average player that's playing it for free and maybe puts a couple bucks in, they're not going to be able to do anything because all these guys that are putting in hundreds of dollars to win the game, they're just going to dominate you every time, and it's just really not fair. So the top games that I would say out there free to play would be, as far as MMOs go, would be Rift, Terra, SWTOR. All those are great games to play. They're not pay to win. And you can honestly go in, never pay a dime, and have a lot of fun. But if you are having fun with the game, I have to strongly urge you to put some money into it because that's the money they're making back for making the game free and developing stuff. So you do have to support them. Put some money in there if you enjoy the game. Don't be afraid to do that because it's a hell of a lot better than $15 a month if you just put in like $5 a month to just support your developers. Free-to-play is a great thing, and now it's actually even spreading out to different genres. You have games like PlanetSide 2, which is first-person shooter free-to-play, massive PvP battlegrounds to battle 3 different factions that are just going at it, trying to dominate the world. You have Hawken, which is a new Mechana first-person shooter, kind of like a Call of Duty, only you're in giant metal suits, and that is also a great game, very competitive and absolutely free. You can buy some bonus packs for some XP bonuses and stuff like that to rank up faster, but I mean, the free-to-play games are really great, and I actually see us veering more and more towards that as new games come out.
Right, man. And a couple of the ones that I played, are DC Universe Online, which I'm not a big MMO person because I'm such a traditionalist when it comes to RPGs. So I'm used to, like the Zeldas, the Final Fantasies, the Wild Arms, the Suikoden's, Legend of Dragoon, like those type of traditional JRPGs that were popular in the PS1 era that have now completely all but died off. Those are the RPGs that I enjoy. So it's hard for me to play an MMO. So I can't really say that free-to-play wasn't the reason that I didn't like DC Universe. I expected more of it because it was one of those games that they talked about in development forever, and it was going to be the greatest game ever to come out, and
right.
You could do all the shit. And you can do some cool stuff, but again, a lot of the better things, better classes and weapons and outfits, you do have to buy, which I think is fair. Because if you enjoy that type of gameplay, then, if you're a person, just because I don't like it doesn't mean somebody else doesn't, and I think it's fair. I think it is fair with that. Another free-to-play game, and I'm thinking of a game that's very old. It's a PC game, similar to World of Warcraft, but before that, I can't remember what it's called. Help me out, Dylan. It was a very basic game. It's not Minecraft.
Okay.
Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it, but it was very popular. It was really popular when I was in high school. RuneScape. Sorry, RuneScape.
Right, RuneScape just got a huge reboot too. They came out with RuneScape 3, I believe, and the graphics, oddly enough, have improved, but it's become more of a pay-to-win game as well. Classes and spells and stuff you really are eager to get and hold on to are no longer free. You have to be subscribers, so that's really disappointing with that game. I got into it for a little while as soon as they rebooted because the graphics truly are much better. It looks like a PS2 game, but if you ever played the original, you would know that that's a vast improvement. And everything is so good with it, but you have to pay so much money just to be able to do the things you really should be able to do right off the get-go. So, I mean, that's that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to throw you off your train of thought there. Sorry about that. Did we lose you, Brandon? Are you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my I had myself muted. Anyway, sorry. Going back. No, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know that people still actually played RuneScape or that it was getting updates still. I had forgotten all about its existence until you brought up free-to-play. But other than that, I mean, you being more of a PC gamer, there aren't a lot of free-to-play options when it comes to consoles other than, like I said, DC Universe, which, again, it's just not my cup of tea. And I wasn't.
That would most likely be the number one.
On consoles, I think it's the only one, actually. But going forward, Dylan, there's one game that we can both agree that is really epic, and it's a free-to-play, and that is Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic for the PC. And my experience so far, I played it for about 3 hours this week, and created my character. I'm playing it on a Dell laptop, so don't hang me, anybody. But it's a good game, and it actually runs pretty well on the computer, and I enjoy it. I'm not a fan of MMOs, but I like the Star Wars skin compared to what WoW offers, because I think WoW has just become so WoW is the only way I can describe it, with all the patches and updates and expansions. It's gone away from what originally made me like the game. I think Star Wars is a really cool game, and when I do have my PC, I think we'll be playing a lot of that.
Star Wars is a phenomenal game, and actually it was one of the few free-to-play games that I instantly, within 10 minutes of playing it, put my money into it because I just knew that this was the ultimate free-to-play game that I have touched in a very long time, and I instantly subscribed to it. Actually, right now I've been taking a break from it, and I still pay the money because I've had such a fantastic time playing with that game, and they just constantly are adding in new content. And it's just a fantastic game. Even if you don't pay for it, it's still well worth your time. But I also feel like if you're not paying for it, that you are losing some of the value of the game.
Yeah, well, enlighten me a little bit on what you actually get for paying for the game, because I'm not really clear on that.
Well, you get these cartel coins, which are basically essentially your money for the in-game store. And then as well to that, you also get any new content that comes out. You get it absolutely instantly as soon as they come out with content. They just came out with some spaceship battle thing, which is awesome. It's a spaceship PvP, which you go in and you actually pilot your spacecraft, which you can customize fully, and you fight other players with it. And as I understand, there was another update where you're actually going to be able to settle on other planets and make a home for yourself. And I don't know what all entails in that. I would have to look into that more. But that is a new release that either has just come out or is about to come out. But overall, you get all kinds of bonuses. You unlock everything in the game, so you're able to access everything. Things that you might not have been able to access before will be available to you, such as a bank, different things like that. Just convenience things. The cartel market, which is pretty much just your auction house for anybody who else has played as an MMO. You get access to that. Your trades are quicker and everything else. So it's very worth playing. You get a bunch of content for your $15 a month. And like I said, even though I'm not playing it right now, I still pay it.
Yeah, man, again, it's a game that we could definitely play together. I think if I'm going to play an MMO, it's going to have to be with somebody I know. Otherwise, I think that's what those games are made for anyway. They're essentially an extension of social networking, in my opinion. I tend to be the type of gamer, again, that enjoys the... Yeah, pretty much. I enjoy the single-player aspect of games. I like to do things on my own. So MMO is going to be a new territory for me to conquer. I've played very few games online, even though I have the PS3. I think BioShock 2 would be the game that I played the most of online, and I've made a lot of friends that way, actually. Other than that, there's really not much that I do on the internet. So that's, again, it's kind of what makes us a good combination, because we both come from very different places when it comes to games.
Yes, very much so.
But yeah, but it's what makes us interesting. And the cool thing too, and I don't want to go too far into this, but the cool thing too is growing up. I mean, we both had. Well, I'm a little bit older than you. I was around when we had the NES, and then the Super Nintendo, and I think the Sega was actually your first console, or did you actually play Super Nintendo when it was
definitely
new?
Super Nintendo. We played a lot of Mario back in the day that I remember.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, we would have been playing Super Nintendo. So, and actually early on, we kind of went separate roads, because we ended up from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation 1, which we played the shit out of, and I honestly still play PS1 games to this day.
Absolutely.
And then from the PS1, we transitioned into PS2, and then something weird happened. Then I got an N64, and you got a GameCube, and then we got a PS2. And that was kind of where we started to go our separate ways. And from there, it just continued on. Both played PS3, but you ended up buying an Xbox for a short amount of time. And then,
which was one of my biggest regrets.
Mine too. I did own an Xbox for about a week. And, yeah, it wasn't... And this Xbox was modded to where you could actually burn the games to disk and put them straight in the machine and it would play them. And I still didn't like it. But, yeah, man, we've had very different avenues here. Let me ask you this real quick before we start talking about Metal Gear. How exactly did you get into PC gaming? Was it The Witcher that kind of started that whole thing for you, or was it something else?
I would have to say originally it was World of Warcraft, oddly enough. World of Warcraft, we played it on a very old computer. Almost everybody in the house at that point had played it, and I ended up getting into it. Actually, you were the one that talked it so highly to me. So I ended up making my first little tour in Warrior, I believe. It was, way back in the day. And after playing it, there was just so much you could do. At the time that WoW first came out, there was really a lot in that game that you'd never seen before, like crafting, being able to pick up random plants, skin animals, and make things out of them. It was just unparalleled to anything else that we've seen as far as RPGs go. And the more and more I played it, I ended up getting my own computer and then eventually upgrading it to be able to see what the game was actually capable of without any lag. And then after I got that computer, I realized that there was other computer games out there like The Witcher and Hellgate London that you are able to play, and that's really what branched me out to be a true PC gamer. Later on from that, I ended up getting a better computer. As you know, I trade in computers like I change my underwear. It's constant. About every year I get a new computer. And yeah, I eventually ended up getting Steam, and then as I saw Steam was just the selling point, absolutely. There was no turning back from that point, seeing the vast amount of games that were at my fingertips for competitive prices constantly. So that was really the selling point, which really hooked me in and kept me as a PC gamer.
Right, yeah. I remember that transformation when I kind of played WoW up to about level 28, and then I decided it wasn't what I wanted to play anymore. I just couldn't, it was just too, see, I'm a completionist, and I play games through to the end, and I like the ability to beat a game and walk away. And WoW kind of stripped me of that and made me feel uncomfortable, so I didn't like it. But anyway, yeah, World of Warcraft was revolutionary. I did love it when it first came out, and then I just kind of lost interest in it and gave it over to you. But anyway, Dylan, that's enough about the competition between console gamers and PC gamers.
Right.
Which I don't see the competition because
you did mention something which I want to touch on very quickly, which will bring us into our next segment that I'm sure you want to get into as fast as we can, which would be the Metal Gear series. You mentioned at one point that you had the PS2 and then N64, and I had my GameCube, because at that time I was little, you were my older brother, I wanted something different. I wanted to try something different. And one of the biggest games on GameCube that I was able to play was the remake of Metal Gear 1, and that's Metal Gear Twin Snakes, which was completely done over with every cutscene. Some of the voiceover and dialogues were improved, and it was just a great thing to see. I mean, you're talking about coming from the PS1 version of Metal Gear Solid 1, where Snake didn't even have a face, and now you have him with a full face, PS2 graphics, new systems in there, and then they improved on all the dialogue, and it was just incredible to see it. If anybody hasn't played the remake, it's definitely, GameCubes are so cheap right now, and you can find the game anywhere. I would definitely urge you to just go play that if you're an avid Metal Gear fan, because it's just fantastic to see that kind of remake of one of the best games ever made.
Now, would you call Twin Snakes your favorite game in the Metal Gear series?
Yes, absolutely, because it is Metal Gear 1. So if you were a big fan of Metal Gear 1, and it's the same exact game, verbatim, there's just a couple different things that are in there that are actually improvements rather than hindrance. The cutscenes are more believable and more fun, and they actually ramp up Snake a little bit more than the first one really entailed. The first one, they harp on how he's a legendary hero, and he's just this badass. But in the remake of Twin Snakes, you get to see that. You get to see him backflip off Nikita missiles. I'm sure anybody who's played the series knows what a Nikita is. You get to see him do backflips off it and take out Liquid in the helicopter single-handedly. You get to see that happen. Whereas in the first one, you knew it happened, but you didn't quite get the full picture.
Right, and it's a shame for me because I did miss that game. I never had the opportunity to play it. I've been kind of an asshole when it comes to Metal Gear because I have certain expectations based from the first game that even when Metal Gear gets to a point, Metal Gear is so weird for me. Again, because I love the first game so much. It's one of my favorites of all time. And every time they make some kind of change or tweak something, I always get a little bit nervous, like, oh, don't fuck with a classic kind of thing.
Right.
And you know what? Every time they do it right, with one exception, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But anyway, my favorite Metal game. You do, because I've been very pissed off today because of Metal Gear. But anyway, Metal Gear 1 would be my favorite. To me, it doesn't really need fixed because, again, it's a classic. But I feel that if I played Twin Snakes, I would probably share your opinion because that's been a lot of what's happened with Metal Gear series. So we've talked Metal Gear 1. Metal Gear 1, actually, we got to spend a little more time on that because that was one of the games that when we were kids, I believe I was 7. If I was 7, you would have had to been about 4 years old. When we first got that game, it changed everything. Because you got to remember, just a couple years earlier, we were playing Super Mario World, and then we jumped into Metal Gear, and games like Siphon Filter and Crash Bandicoot, even though it was a platformer, was revolutionary for its time, and Tomb Raider, and Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII. All those games were just huge separations from the Nintendo that we had been playing for so long, and it was the first time that gaming revolutionized itself on a console level. So,
right.
Let's take it a step further. What is your favorite boss fight in the first Metal Gear, and why?
Oh, by far, fighting Gray Fox. Fighting Gray Fox is my favorite because the strategies that you have, I mean, the game was smart enough. Now, actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'm a little torn because it had so many good boss fights. I mean, you're talking about choosing between Psycho Mantis, who at the time they thought of a way to make it so he could read your minds, per se, and tell what you were going to do. So if you had to plug your controller into the second slot just to be able to defeat him, which is unparalleled even for later games in the PS1 era, and even coming up to newer games.
When we were kids and we saw that Mantis, plug your controller into port 2 and set it on the ground and it would vibrate, we had no idea what the hell was doing that. That was one of the greatest innovations for the time in gaming. Plus the vibrating controller. I believe PlayStation brought that to the world of gaming, which is something I still enjoy with PS3. And I think that Metal Gear 1 kind of took advantage of it. Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
It's a great
and then
you're
also choosing between the Sniper Wolf battle, which is by far, I think, in my opinion, the best sniper battle out of any video game to ever be made. I mean, you're talking about the most legendary sniper battle that there ever had existed. And not only do you get to do it once, but you get to do it twice. Once outside and once in a building, kind of suburb type of deal. And it's just fantastic. But still, I got to go with Gray Fox just because Gray Fox's characters and Snake's characters are just so perfect.
I agree, Dylan. Metal Gear 1 had a fantastic ability to give the bosses an incredible amount of depth in a very small amount of time. They all had their very distinct personalities, and they were formidable when you saw them. The first boss fight being Raven in the tank. That shit was scary when we were kids, man. This is big bald guy with all these tattoos in the tank, and you didn't know what to do. That was one of the fun things about the first Metal Gear. You never really knew what to do, but once you figured it out, the sense of achievement was incredible. So, the first one, you had to smoke the cigarettes to climb under the lasers to get to the tank fight, and then you finally get to the tank fight, and you got to throw the grenades in the tank. But anyway, my favorite boss fight in Metal Gear 1, it's a close tie with the Revolver Ocelot fight because I love the C4 on the multicolored walls. But also, my favorite one, if I have to pick one, would be the Raven boss fight with the Gatling gun when you're in the cooler in the basement.
Oh, absolutely. I forgot all about that one, too. There's just so many good boss fights to choose from in that game. I think every one of them was perfect.
They were. Metal Gear is definitely one of the cornerstones of the series is boss fights, which is another thing I'm kind of pissed about now that we're talking about it. So let's just stop beating around the bush real quick. We'll talk more about the Metal Gear series, our favorite moments, our favorite games, our favorite things that happened. But first of all, let's talk about what everybody's talking about. Let's talk about Metal Gear 5. Ground Zeroes that just came out, I believe, Tuesday, and I just finished it today. You finished it earlier in the week. Dylan, I'm going to go ahead and let you give your thoughts first. Actually let me give mine first because I'm going to be negative and I'll let you talk it back up after I tear it down. Now, Metal Gear Ground Zeroes is a fantastic game. When I first saw it, I kind of knew that it was going to be a half-assed type of prequel deal, and it looked really shitty, to be honest with you. Because the way I found out about it was, first you talked about it all the time, but I had sworn off all of it after 4, and in Revengeance, and I just said that I'm done with the series, I'm happy with where 4 ended, and I don't need to pick it up again. And I was totally wrong about it. So, going forward, we got Ground Zeroes. And I originally saw the screenshots. And the screenshots they chose for PSN are really bad. They just don't do the game justice at all. Now, the game's graphics are incredible. The story actually branches from Peace Walkers, which is interesting because it's a game that neither one of us have ever played. It's one of the spin-offs that was released on PSP. So it's kind of a new old experience for us that we get to go back and check that out, which we're going to do later on tonight. But anyway, it uses the characters and the storyline from Peace Walker. And basically what happens is 2 of the main characters are captured. and kept in a Marine base somewhere in the United States, and Snake's job is to go and rescue them because they have information about Snake's little military outfit that doesn't belong to any country that, if discovered or interrogated out of either one of them, would be fatal to his operation, because Snake has had an android, let's just call it a Metal Gear because that's kind of what they're called. He has a special Metal Gear belt called Metal Gear Zeke, that carries a warhead, but he's kept the warhead a secret because it's a defense mechanism. He never intends to use it unless absolutely necessary. So, again, basically to paraphrase, these two guys are on the space. They know everything about Metal Gear Zeke. What was the female's name, Dylan? Do you remember? It was like a 3-letter word. I want to say it was like Paz. That's right, Paz. Paz is a double agent. Paz was working with the antagonist from Peace Walkers. And then it seems, if you listen to the tape recordings in the bonus features in the main menu of the game, it seems that she had a change of heart towards the end of the situation, which we'll find out when we play Peace Walkers. But anyway, you go to the base, you rescue the people. So the game is a cutscene, and then you land on the island. The mission took me 45 to 47 minutes to complete. After that, there's another cutscene, and that's it. But you do unlock some extra missions, which I haven't touched because I was so pissed after the game ended, and I just haven't even touched it. And here's the reason I'm frustrated with it. Is it a good game? Yeah, it's phenomenal. It shows off what's going to happen in Metal Gear 5. It sets up the story for you. It whets your appetite, and it was a fun experience. I can't take anything away from it. I died several times. I restarted it a bunch of times. I played probably for a good 3 hours total before actually completing it because I wanted to do better than you did, by the time I got to that point, I just didn't care anymore. Which, by the way, Dylan, I got a rank C when I finished it. What was your rank? Your first one.
Same rank. I am very sad about that rank, and I actually am continuing to try to improve upon that to get more. There's a lot of unlockables in the game, which I would like to see. Because,
right.
Like you said, it's a very short campaign.
I'm going to let you fix all this for the listeners. I'm going to let you fix everything and make it all better because I'm going to ruin it for them. Anyway, you do the mission. You have to rescue the first character. I won't give any spoilers. It takes not much time. It's pretty simple. Sans the AI, but it gives you the option, which is one of the things I like about the game, similar to Far Cry 3. If you have your binoculars on, you can tag the enemies, and even if you're behind them or they're on the other side of a wall or a mountain or in a basement or whatever, you can still see where they are, which I think is a really cool addition to the Metal Gear series. And that replaces your mini-map with the cones of vision and all that. So it's kind of more of a guessing game and a common sense type of game, but your common sense can fool you a lot. So I enjoy the dynamic gameplay and the intelligence of the AI, which is a rare thing to have AI that, is smart enough to actually screw you and put you in positions you just can't get out of. There were many times where I'd have one guy walking towards me and another guy coming up behind me, and I panicked because I knew they were smart enough to catch me if I did the wrong thing. And more often than not, I panicked and did the wrong thing, which makes for a great game because I love the challenge of it. But anyway, the problem with Ground Zeroes is we were just talking about all the great boss fights and the things that Metal Gear is so well known for, and none of those exist in Ground Zeroes. There's not a single boss fight. There's 5 additional missions, which I actually found out what the hidden mission is, Dylan. It's called Deja Vu for the PlayStation. On the Xbox, it's a mission where you play as Raiden, and apparently these people are like the body snatchers, and you have to go and stop them, but they share the same character models as the guards. But anyway, the issue I have with Ground Zeroes is that I paid $30 for it, $20 for it, $30 with a hard copy in a store, and it's a demo, essentially. At its core, it's a demo of the game, and it's so fucking good that I was pissed when it was over, and I felt cheated out of my money. And that's the first time I've ever said that about a Metal Gear game. So, it's a great game. It's a great game, but would I recommend anybody buy it? No. Absolutely not. And here's why, Dylan. I'm sorry I'm going really long with this, but I got to get this off my chest. Angry Joe, the review of this, because usually when I have an opinion about a game, I'll go and watch other people because sometimes I can be talked out of my negativity. So I went and watched the Angry Joe show and his review of Ground Zeroes, and he said exactly what I was thinking. What if, this game is a catalyst for future developers to do the same fucking thing, to release a prologue for a game that's, it might be phenomenal, but it's like not enough time. It's an hour long. It's not enough time for you to get a real impression of what's going on. Hideo Kojima, as it's pronounced, himself said that Metal Gear 5 will be 200 times longer than Ground Zeroes. And I think it's just a really piss-poor business model to release something like this at the price tag it was. $5 or $10, sure. And actually, Dylan, another thing that pissed me off that I found out right after we talked earlier was that if you pre-ordered Ground Zeroes on the PSN, you got Peace Walker for free. So instead, I'm buying Peace Walker because my appetite for Metal Gear is wetter than ever. So I need to play a Metal Gear game now. So we bought Peace Walker for $20, and I also paid the $20 for Ground Zeroes. So I'm pretty much out $40, and I could have been out $20 and gotten both games, in which case I wouldn't be as pissed. And that's the end of my rant. Now it's your turn.
Okay, I have to fix all that because Metal Gear Ground Zeroes was a great game. Was it a full game? No, you're paying $20 for a game. The average game is $60 now, so you're paying a third of the price for arguably a third of the game. Now, the campaign, like he said, is about an hour long, depending on how much time you spend. It turns out there's a lot of Easter eggs in the actual main mission, which is your campaign, that there are to find. There's prisoners that you can find that you can save, which will give you things. If you manage somehow, you're a god at video games, you can stealth through the whole mission without ever killing a soul. There's unlockables for that. And also there's these little patches, which I love about the game, that are actually the fox, for fox sound, backwards, which is what the antagonists use. So you can find up to 10 of those. If you mark every enemy on the map, you get unlockables for that. So there's a lot to do. Yes, the actual story is not really there, but it's supposed to be a teaser. It's supposed to be a demo of the story. But really what they're showcasing is the pure next-gen model of what Metal Gear is to become. And overall, the next-gen Metal Gear is phenomenal. It's unparalleled to anything we've seen as far as graphics, playability, weather systems, AI. Everything that needs to be there is there. It's a very tight game. It actually reminds me of how Portal is. Everything that the original Portal is, just everything that needs to be there is there, and that's why it is such a great game, because they didn't overcompensate. They didn't put in a ton of useless systems that you might use once in a game to get it out of something as a tutorial, but you'll never touch it again. Everything that's there is usable. You'll use it plenty of times throughout the game, and it's just perfect. And even down to the spotlight system they have now is with the lighting effects and everything they have for spotlights now. It's just we've come such a long way from when if you just graze a spotlight, you're instantly caught and have the whole base on you, whereas now you can actually evade them just by using camouflage and weather and shadows to your advantage. And also coming from 3, I mean, 3 you had all your different camos that you could use to try to get up your stealth level, and 4 you had the automatic camo suit. But now you don't need that, because honestly, in a Metal Gear or any type of stealth tactical game, when are you actually going to be able to change your pants, you know? So the fact that you're using more of the environment and shadows to your advantage to hide and be stealthy is way better. But like you said, the campaign was very disappointing. I have to give you that. And I really, truly feel neither of us played Peace Walker yet. And I honestly feel like there was some significance to that story which would redeem the game if we had known what that was. Now, the game is nice enough to give you a full background story and everything that happened to Peace Walker, but it just doesn't do it justice. I can tell just from reading it. Didn't even have to play Peace Walker. I know it doesn't do it justice because you can't put 11 pages and justify that being a Metal Gear game. There's just no way. But overall, the game's awesome. I look forward to playing through the main mission plenty of times before the new one comes out. The only real disappointment I have is that the new one isn't coming out for another year, which it's just not justified to release a pre-release teasing you like this a year before you plan on releasing your actual showcase game. So that's unfair. But past that, $20, I mean, $20 you can not go to McDonald's a couple times and have a perfectly fun game to go through and play all the missions. The playability of the game is fantastic. The gameplay is so much fun, and it's just a lot of fun to see what they've done, because the other missions are not. The first mission, it's raining, it's dark out, you know, you have that to your advantage, but the next ones are the newer missions that you have to play after that don't have the story in them, but they also have different showcased environments, because actually now in the Metal Gear series, if it's raining, that actually gives you cover. If it's dark out, it gives you cover. Well, what do you do when it's daylight out in the middle of nowhere, you know, and it's nice and sunny? It's a lot different, you know? And that actually plays factors as to enemy visibility and your visibility even. so it's perfect. I mean, I love the game. I would cough up $20 to pay for it. I would gladly give you your money back just because I know you are so pissed off that you paid $20 for this game. But overall, I'd say it's a great game. You can get a lot of gameplay out of it.
It's not an issue that it's a bad game for me at all. I enjoyed it, and that's the problem, though. I enjoyed it so much, and I made this reference earlier. It'd be like if your girlfriend came home and you'd been thinking about her all day and you really missed her, and she took her shirt off and she dropped her bra on the floor and then she gave you a kiss on the cheek and went to bed. That's what Metal Gear Ground Zeroes is for me. It's a fucking tease is what it basically is. You know, it gives you, it's like, look at this wonderful world we've created. Look at all these new textures. And again, I hear people talk all the time about how the PS4 looks so brilliant and it's so much better. It's a big jump from PS3. And Metal Gear Ground Zeroes fucking proves that wrong on so many levels. Because the game looks just as good. I'm sorry, it looks just as good as ever.
I absolutely have to agree with you with that. The fact that Metal Gear 5 Ground Zeroes got released on Xbox 360 and PS3 dumbfounds me. Because originally, I don't know who was paying attention out there, but originally Ground Zeroes was supposed to be an Xbox One exclusive. It was only going to be for people who had the Xbox One, only for Xbox One as the teaser for the upcoming Phantom Pain.
Which they might have sold more of because Xbox fans are a lot less smart than PS3 fans. They probably would have bought.
Hey, now, I'm sure there's plenty of Xbox people out there. We can't be completely biased. Xbox One is a viable system. Actually, right now, it has more games than PS4, which saddens me to say that. I hate when Xbox outdoes PS or PlayStation in any way, shape, or form, but really, right now, Xbox is showing its stuff, and it's doing well. So I have to say right now, Xbox One's doing very well.
It always has the capability with Microsoft to come out of the gates really, really strong. But PS3 is like a fine wine, PlayStation in general. It comes out, and you kind of get to see what it can do, and then later down the road, you realize, holy shit, this thing is amazing, which I'm sure is what's going to happen with the PS4, because look at what the PS3, again, Ground Zeroes absolutely proves me right, because I've been saying all along that I'm not going to buy a PS4 when it launches because I think the PS3 still has a lot of life left in it. And Ground Zeroes definitely proved that right for me.
Yes, and it's very rare that this happens, but I actually agree with you. And PS3 is really showcasing its stuff, and I'm actually 100% shocked that it's able to run Ground Zeroes as fluidly and as well as it does. The graphics are exactly like they were showcased on Xbox One, and you can argue that all day, but I'm no graphics being a PC gamer. I'm very picky with graphics, as you would attest to that. And the graphics were spot on right where they should have been, right where they showcased it as. Actually, if you would have showed me PS3 and Xbox One side by side, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Well, yeah, and too, Dylan, it runs at 60 frame rates per second on the PS3. There's no what am I trying to say, lag? There's no lag whatsoever. I didn't experience that. I did begin the desert level. Well, it's all the same level. Let's be clear on that. It's all the same level, just different.
Always
missions.
In the same encampment.
It's an open world, one level game. But anyway, I noticed when I went from nighttime, the first mission's a nighttime raining mission with the rain particles and the splashing and the reflections with no lag into the desert area where you can actually see the ocean. And granted, it's from a distance, but it's somewhat close to you. The ocean looks so realistic when compared to the movement of Snake himself. And again, like you said, the visibility. So that's my gripe with Ground Zeroes. It's so good, but it's not enough. It's just not enough to justify $20. I could see if it was $5 or if it was a special release or like a demo for PlayStation Plus users or something along those lines. I don't see it being a standalone. And another complaint I'm going to have about it is I guarantee you that the mission you play in Ground Zeroes is going to take place in the full game as well, which will really piss me off. So I'm just preparing myself for that in general. But overall, it's a good game. It's not a bad game at all. It's just the amount of good game that you get for your buck that is my major complaint.
Right, absolutely. And I still think $20 it's really pushing it to be on the mark of what it's worth. But from what I've seen, just from playing through the same mission twice, that I can see the playability of it. I can really see where you can get your money's worth in there. if you actually go and explore. Because the whole map, I mean, it's a very small map. Like you said, it's an open world, one-level encampment. But it's a fairly big encampment. There's a lot in there. The stuff's in there, and it's very much all used. You're not going to find any compounds that are useless or any portions of that there's nothing to do. There's always something to do. You just have to find it. And they don't direct you like in old Metal Gears. Metal Gears always are telling you where to go, what you should be doing. If you don't know, you can give somebody a call. They'll let you know where to go. This one's very much, they kind of set you on your own path. Just, here's your objective, go do it. And they never really tell you where to go. They never tell you where to look. Hell, one of the best features of that game is at one point you have to find one of your prisoners off only using a videotape and listening to the sounds. And that comes to another fact that the sounds in the game, now this is not something that we normally say, but even the sounds in the game are phenomenal. Like, it's very rare that
I can agree with you on that, Dylan. I actually played the game with a soundbar, a Sony soundbar, and the subwoofer and the center channel got a great amount of use. And I actually took that for granted. If I were playing it on a normal TV speaker, which we all know on HD TVs, the speakers are in the back of the TV, the sound bounces off your wall and comes at you that way, I think it would have taken away from it. But I didn't actually take into account the quality of the sound in the game, which is very, very high, for sure.
Yes. Absolutely, and it's very rare that I actually even say anything about sound, but that's definitely there. The sound actually really impressed me, and I am playing off a bad TV, so I couldn't imagine playing with an actual system. I mean, that would be awesome, which is another reason why I prefer a PC. I have the subwoofer and all that built in, which gives me very good sound quality right there at the laptop. But away from that, Metal Gear Ground Zero is $20, definitely pushing it. I mean, $15 I think would be your sweet spot, but $20 still worth it. But if you're not an avid Metal Gear fan, it's not going to be worth your money. So don't bother with it. If you're trying to jump into the series, definitely don't bother with it because it's going to ruin the series from you, and this is not a series you want to miss.
But yeah, that's one of the things it's done. Metal Gear Ground Zero has created a rift, and it's made two factions. One side being the Metal Gear fanboys, and one side being people who have played maybe a little bit of the series, but not really enough to understand, how good this game actually is. Unfortunately, I kind of fall in the middle. I'm a fanboy for Metal Gear. I love Metal Gear. It's one of the few franchises, again, I don't buy brand new video games because, we all see what happens to games. They come out and they're dated and then they go down in price ridiculously quick. South Park Stick of Truth is one of those games that's going to be like that. I paid $60 for it, and I guarantee you in the next 3-4 months it's down to $20-$30 because it's just not.
Actually, on Steam, I've already seen sales where it's significantly cheaper.
Yeah, it's not a mainstream type of game that a lot of people are going to go out and buy. It's not going to do a lot of sales, so they're going to drop the price quickly to try to sell it quicker. And, it's just that's the type of thing that's going to happen with Metal Gear. I think this whole game, this whole release is a detriment to the series overall because a lot of people, it's great for you and me because we love the game so much, the series overall, the franchise itself, that it makes this game kind of okay. I'm not calling Kojima and bitching at him, it's whatever. It happened and it's too late to do anything. And, again, it's a good game. But for people that have never heard of this, I think it's going to push a lot of people away from Metal Gear in general. And it's kind of a sad world we live in when it comes to things like this. Again, hopefully this thing doesn't sell too well because this could open the door for a lot of developers, and I'm looking at you, EA, to come out with games like this where it's a prologue, and you get one mission. It's basically we're paying for demos at this point. When one of the greatest innovations of this generation was, the downloadable demo on PSN, I think was one of the greatest things that ever happened to gaming. You can sit at your house, you can download the demo. If you don't like the demo, you don't buy the game. If you do, you can buy the game right off PSN right then and there. I think that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened. Go ahead.
Even with PlayStation Plus, they took the demo a step forward, and if you are a subscriber to PlayStation Plus, which if you own a PlayStation console, you better be a subscriber to PlayStation Plus because you're missing out on a ton of good content and a ton of free games and everything else that is just so worth the amount of money that you pay for it. But past that, if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you can actually get hour-long demos of the full game. No bullshit, no here, have this little teaser boss fight. You get to play the full game for an hour, and if you decide to buy it, you get to pick up your progress right where you left off, which is a phenomenal idea. I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Dylan. It's like my favorite one so far was Diablo 3, because I don't know if you remember back when Diablo 3 was released on PS3. It created another rift between me and you, because you being the PC gamer didn't see any reason to have it for a console. Me, on the other hand, it was like a wet dream come true, because I love Blizzard and I love Diablo, and be able to sit on my couch and play with my wireless controller was just the greatest thing that could have ever happened. So I got the demo. The demo allowed you to play up to level 9, and upon getting to level 9, I decided I wanted the game, but only if you wanted it, because I wanted to play it with you. So we ended up getting it. But again, going back to the main problem here, if this game does sell and does significant numbers, this may be something that affects gaming altogether, and we have nobody but to blame about it but ourselves. So I really wish they hadn't released this yet. They could have waited until a couple weeks before the game comes out in 2015, and maybe sold it for $5 or $10. That would have been no problem at all. Hell, if I had known that I would have got a free copy of Peace Walkers when I pre-ordered it, I would have just did that. But overall, we got a sneak preview that some people aren't going to get, and that's basically what it boils down to. But let's talk about the rest of Metal Gear. Let's talk about what Phantom Pain is going to be, and what's the story about, Dylan? Because I don't know a lot about it, again, because I swore off Metal Gear after the end of 4, and now I'm kind of being pulled back in because of Ground Zero. So tell me what you know about Phantom Pain so far.
Phantom Pain is actually fairly hard to interpret for me, because what it's doing is it's filling in the story of Big Boss. And this is my understanding of it. I could be completely wrong, so if I am wrong, correct me. But it's filling in the story of Big Boss, because anybody who played Metal Gear 3 knows that Metal Gear 3 was the events leading up to Big Boss defeating the boss and becoming Big Boss. So at the end of the game, he's Big Boss, he's recognized, and everything's happy-go-lucky. I'm Big Boss now. But what happens after that? You hear in every other Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear 4, the legendary Big Boss, this super soldier that they go through all this hell to try to clone and make more of, the Genome Soldier Project being one of those, trying to mass produce this Big Boss that's this legendary soldier. What has Big Boss done, though? What does he do to become such a legend that everybody wants to have him on their fighting side? And that's really what we're getting at with Peace Walker and Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, and then Metal Gear 5 is going to fill in the rest of that. But also, from my understanding, you're also going to see some other holes in the story filled in. Snake's connection with McDonald Miller, which actually I'm learning more and more. At first, one of my biggest gripes about Metal Gear Ground Zeroes was in Metal Gear 1, they introduced the character McDonald Miller, which Liquid Snake impersonates to a full Solid Snake. But in Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, his name is not McDonald Miller. It is, I can't pronounce it, like Kirishima.
It's a Japanese name
Miller.
that neither one of us can pronounce.
Yes, exactly. Kirishima Miller. Let's just call him that. Which fooled me, and I was like, what's going on here? That's not McDonald Miller. That's who this guy's supposed to be. He looks just like him, acts just like him, has the same voice actor and everything. What's going on here? I come to find out that they're actually kind of the same person, but what you're seeing more clones is what I'm believing to be. I don't know if that's a fact or not. That's what I'm foreseeing in the story, is that these guys are going to be cloned, because there's also another character named Huey, which is a character that's in a wheelchair and strikes a shocking resemblance to the character Otacon, which Solid Snake knows. And it turns out that Huey, the wheelchair-driven Otacon, is actually Otacon's father, Huey Emmerich, and then you have Hal Emmerich. So I believe that Japanese Miller is actually McDonald Miller's father of some sort. And just like how Big Boss is Solid Snake's father. And that's what I'm seeing from this. I'm seeing that they're duplicating these guys. Because if you look back at Otacon, I mean, Otacon throughout the whole game, he seems pretty useless. Why would anybody want to make a clone of that? But at the same time, the technology he comes out with and the things that he does to aid Solid Snake are well worth making a clone for. And then as well as Miller is a strategic genius, really, is what it comes down to with the story. And they're really just duplicating a team of people rather than you see Solid Snake got duplicated out of Big Boss and you're like, wow, that's cool. They wanted to make a super soldier. But what I'm seeing is they're duplicating the whole team. There's a whole team of people because we all know Solid Snake is a badass, but he would not be able to do this all alone. He has a lot of aid throughout every game that you play between Otacon and his commander, which is normally Colonel and stuff like that. You see a lot of those are actually helping him through the game. So I think they're duplicating a whole team of people rather than just the big boss. But Metal Gear 5 is going to fill in a ton of holes to the story. The story behind Miller, anybody who has played Peace Walker, it's going to finish out the story with that, and it's going to jump around the time grid. It's not just going to be from point A to point B and then the game's done like every other Metal Gear has been done. It's going to jump around. You're going to play through a mission, it's going to fill in a story hole. Then you're going to go to the next mission, it's going to fill in a story hole, which I love because Metal Gear series has a ton of holes in it that you don't really think of, but after they bring it up, you're like, wonder what happened there. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I'm afraid of Phantom Pain, though, because, again, for me, Metal Gear 4 was a fine ending. I would have preferred that Snake die, and I'm probably going to go to hell for this, but I'd prefer that Snake die in a climactic manner in 4. At the end of the game, you know that he's... First of all, let's talk about Metal Gear 4 for a minute, okay? Snake is older. He's aging faster because his nanomachines are dying, and that's causing him to die because he is a clone of Big Boss. Big Boss is not technically his biological father. Big Boss is just the DNA that they provided to create Solid Snake. So, Metal Gear 4, he's already aging. He's an old man. He's coughing. He's, you can tell he's got a lot of problems. And then at the end of the game, you walk through about a mile-long vacuum, and you can see he's literally exploding. His veins are literally bursting.
I have to correct you. It's a microwave, not a vacuum.
Oh, sorry. That's what I meant. It's a microwave. But anyway, you get to the end of this microwave, and then you have a fist fight with Liquid Snake on top of a Metal Gear, and you ultimately end up killing Liquid. And then Snake's at a graveyard with Hal Emmerich, Otacon, and you see a shortcut scene with Raiden and his wife and his baby. And the game does what it always does. It goes to the credits, and there's a part at the end where Otacon is talking to Snake, and then you hear a gunshot, and you assume that that's the end of Snake. But it's never actually shown, and that's really disappointing to me. That could have been the end of the series. What I'm afraid of with 5 is, like you said, Dylan, if they're just cloning all these people again and again and again to recreate the same thing, which is what tends to happen in all the Metal Gear games. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to discredit anything. All the games are instant classics, but they all follow kind of the same identical type of build. And what I mean
I do have to correct you with one other thing before we miss that one more time. After the gunshot in 4 does go off, they do show that Snake did not shoot himself, and there's a cutscene that shows, who the hell was it? Zero. Zero comes up. And also, Big Boss himself shows up there. You find out that the Big Boss, there was this big meat packet sealed that was supposed to be the remains of Big Boss, was not actually Big Boss at all. Big Boss shows up.
Okay, yeah, you're right about that. But anyway, it's just kind of a weird thing, and Metal Gear is known for creating its paradoxes, but if you look at every game individually, it all kind of follows the same type of pattern with the exception of Metal Gear 2. The first Metal Gear, you have all the bosses, like we talked about. You have Revolver Ocelot, Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, help me out here. Raven, Liquid Snake, the Metal Gear itself, and I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, the Exoskeleton.
Right, which is Gray Fox.
Okay. Gray Fox. So, then you go over to, let's talk 3. You go to Metal Gear 3.
Yes,
same thing,
absolutely.
Revolver
Let's talk
Ocelot.
about 3.
Okay, so in 3, it's kind of the same deal. You have the sniper guy. I think he's just called Old Man or something. Something really simple. Father Time or some bullshit. You have,
no. It's they all start out with Z. It's the pain, the sorrow, the fear, and
oh, you're right.
I believe what was he? I can't remember. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Was he the end?
No. The end, yes, he was the end. And oddly enough, while we're on him, before we go any further, while we're on him, there's a very cool Easter egg which took me a very long time to figure out. But as you remember, he is a very hard boss fight, debatably the hardest boss fight in the game. Very difficult boss fight. But there is a way to completely bypass him if you're good. You can actually obtain a sniper rifle before you're supposed to, as long as you're actually, I mean, anybody who's a gamer knows that you always search your immediate area, you search every nook and cranny of any game because they hide shit. So if you look around enough, you can find your sniper rifle, and you can actually kill the end the first time you see him, which he doesn't see you, but you're scoping out the place and you see the end sitting in his wheelchair, all dead and everything, and you can actually snipe him and bypass that boss fight and not have to fight him at all, which is very cool because I hate that boss fight. It's a great boss fight, don't get me wrong, but it's so difficult that I hated playing it.
I actually did hear that, but I always thought it was a myth. I didn't know you could actually do it.
No, you can absolutely do it, and it's awesome. I was shocked because I did it for fun, and I saw that he died, but I didn't know that he actually died. I'm like, oh, that's a funny Easter egg. And then I got to the boss fight, and there was nothing but a couple soldiers out there, and I was like, what the hell? This is awesome. And it was through my third playthrough because I played every Metal Gear a billion times. But yes, there is a very cool Easter egg with that, and if you have the game, go try it out because it's awesome.
Well, anyway, going back to that setup, you had Sniper Wolf and then you had the end. There was a Psycho Mantis-like character in Metal Gear 3. I'm having a hard time recalling 3 because it was such a long time ago that I played it. The Sorrow, that's right. You had that situation. You had Ocelot making a return, which the Ocelot fight was really cool because it was like an old school Western type of shootout. Oh man, I'm having a really hard time with this. But anyway, you kind of get my drift. Metal Gear 1's bosses are kind of all remodeled in 3, which 3 would have actually been the first game in the series. And then you have 4, which is kind of the same setup. You have the Psycho Mantis-esque character with the 2 voodoo dolls, which, you got to shoot the right one, and then you can actually hit the antagonist. You have the Vulture-like character that is kind of similar to what Raven would be. And it's kind of, again, it kind of keeps recreating itself. So basically my point is that I'm hoping that when we get Phantom Pain, we don't find out that this is just like some type of paradox or they're different alternate realities or some kind of bullshit like that. There's got to be some type of resolution to all this. And, Dylan, I want to get your opinion about this, too, because I think that if Phantom Pain, when it releases, and hopefully, Hideo Kojima has written a great ending for it and we can finish it. I kind of hope the Phantom Pain is the last game in the series. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should have a Metal Gear 6?
This is definitely 100% not the last game in the series. This is not the last game you're going to see. And I can guarantee you that. The reason why is because they're filling in holes with this one. Are they going to be able to fill in some stuff that could be series ending? Probably. They could probably end the series on that. Like you said, 4 had a great ending to the series. They could have stopped right there. But we all know Hideo Kojima. He doesn't stop right there. He has bigger and better plans for everything he does. Everything he does is in there for a reason. I think that we will see that everything's being cloned. I really do think that. That's actually a sound theory, and the more and more we're talking about it, the more and more it's making sense. Could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe they are trying to fool us into that. But I honestly think we're going to see... I don't know if you remember in the 4th one there was Johnny. Johnny was a fuck-up through the whole series. If you actually remember, he was in the first one. Meryl, a girl, managed to knock him out and steal all of his clothes and leave him naked on the floor with his ass hanging out. And then he comes back and he shits himself and everything else. He's a total fuck-up. But he also is the only one that doesn't have nanomachines. And that is very unique to that character, and they harped on that a lot throughout 4. And at the end, if you remember, him and Meryl, side by side, fought off a horde of enemies and actually made it out alive. And Johnny strikes a very, very striking resemblance to the original Snake way back in the day. He is almost a clone, if that makes sense. So I think that we're going to see Johnny make a comeback sometime throughout these games. And I think Johnny might actually be a bigger part of the story than people are thinking, because think about it. I mean, you're looking at a character that you never knew mattered. He's been in a couple different games, and You don't know what he's doing there. He's never really that important. But really, I mean, he has some unique features to him. The fact that he doesn't have nanomachines in a world, and 4, the world was run by nanomachines. Even your weapons worked by nanomachines. You had to unlock the weapons by certain nanomachines, and there was gun launderers that could help you out with that. But really, I mean, not having nanomachines in that day and age, I mean, even going back, Metal Gear 1 took place 5 years or 6 years before that, if I'm not mistaken. Shadow Moses. And even then, everybody had nanomachines. So the fact that Johnny's running around in this day and age without nanomachines, I think he's going to be a huge part of the story, and I think that that's going to be our game ender. Something to do with him. I can't pinpoint it, but I just know that he's definitely coming back, and we're definitely going to see him in a future game. So unless he's in 5 and they've tied up with that, I don't know. But I think we're going to see some more games, especially because they're not going to make a next-gen system like this, the Fox engine, completely updated and being perfect like this, like we saw in Ground Zeroes, and not utilize it for more future games. So we're definitely going to see some stuff, and Metal Gear Rising actually kind of set up the stage for a couple new games too. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Metal Gear Rising is one of those Metal Gear games that I actually refuse to play. You've talked about it with me. It's a fun experience, but to me it's non-canon, and that's another thing. That's another reason I never played Peace Walkers, because Peace Walkers was technically non-canon until Ground Zeroes was released. So it seemed like, and this is what Metal Gear does that is just completely unparalleled to everything else in the world of gaming, and this is why we're spending like an hour talking about it. It has this innate ability to let's take another series, for example, Assassin's Creed. They've made Assassin's Creed for DS. They've made Assassin's Creed for PSP. Those games have no bearing whatsoever in their core franchises. Can we agree on that?
For the most part, Assassin's Creed Liberation had very, very, very small to do with it, but it did tie in. But really, whenever it tied in, it was just a justification for making a shitty game for your Vita.
That's exactly
I can't
the
say
point
shitty game. It was an okay
game.
game, but at the same time, I mean, you're just justifying at that point to make a game to make people spend money. I mean, honestly, the significance of it, if you're a huge fan of the series, maybe you would love it, but the tie-ins were so weak that they were just really thrown in just to give them a reason to make it.
Right, and it's still a spin-off. It's not actually made to be part of the main canon. And here's the thing, too, with Metal Gear. When you think that it's a spin-off, they totally turn you on your ass and, you have to play this one because now it's important. And that's one of the things I give them a lot of credit for, because Dylan, Peace Walkers came out a long-ass time ago, did it not? I believe
yes,
it was 2005?
It did. It was 5? I couldn't put a year to it, but it was right after 3. It followed up 3, and I remember I had a PSP at the time. I was playing the God of War series and everything else on it, and I saw Metal Gear, and I had to pick it up. And I played a little bit of Peace Walker, but it wasn't significant enough for me to even tell you what it was about, and I believe I just got rid of it right after that. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. The gameplay I do remember being very fun, and I remember there being some pretty significant moments in there that tied into 3, which I had just finished playing at the time. But really, I mean, it was really one of those games that you could have easily missed. It wasn't that significant, and now that I know the story to it via Ground Zeroes, and I've heard about it and I've seen it, it's been resurrected from the grave, an old game. For PSP, I mean, we're not even talking the Vita anymore. We're talking PSP, which came out ages ago, way before, I believe it was before the PS3, right?
The Vita, are you talking Vita or PSP?
PSP.
Yeah,
that
PSP
was the PlayStation Portable,
PS3.
Which was basically your portable PS2, essentially. I mean, it looks just like PS2.
Yeah, I want to say it was before PS3, if not really close to the same release or similar close. But again, Peace Walker was one of those games that I thought was just going to be another spin-off just so Metal Gear could have a game on PSP. And it turns out that we are completely wrong, and now we have to go play it. So,
which I will be playing tonight. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, it actually, I've heard some great things about Peace Walkers. I've been doing a lot of review searching because I spent another $20 on Metal Gear today. and I'm kind of like, oh, was it worth it? I don't want to find out. But actually, for the HD version, they've changed some of the resolution. Now, some of the textures are going to be smaller resolutions. You're going to have a lot of shitty-looking textures. But I've heard from a lot of people that the gameplay outweighs, you know, the fact that the graphics are completely weird because of some of the things being HD, some of the things not. It looks like an early PS2 game. But it's cool, though. It's cool. I'm looking forward to playing it. And I've heard that it has... Holy fucking background noise. I've heard that it has a lot of I've heard... I'm sorry. Forgive my...
You having some technical difficulties here?
I'm having some techno difficulties. No, anyway, it's got one of the best stories, one of the most logical canon extensions of the series ever created, and a lot of people that didn't own PSPs are going to miss it. And now that it's on PSN, I think it's definitely worth a buy. And also, it has a co-op mode, though, and we're going to be able to play some co-op together tonight and do some missions together. Apparently, it has 35 main story missions with somewhere around the ballpark of 100 side missions. This is where Solid Snake, or Big Boss, as you want to call him. No, it's not Solid Snake. It would be Big Boss. Is building his private military that we talked about earlier where, you know, he doesn't belong to a country. He's kind of a freelance military force, and we're going to find out all about Metal Gear Zeke. And also Cypher.
Which is also just a phenomenal story. I only read the 11 pages they give you in Ground Zeroes, which... is actually, it just doesn't do it justice. As I was reading through it, I made it to the first 2 pages, and I was like, this just does not do a Metal Gear game justice. You cannot put a Metal Gear game into 11 pages. Not even, I couldn't even fit Ground Zeroes into 11 pages, and that is a very, very, very small Metal Gear game. It's just, it doesn't do it justice. So, I mean, the more and more I was reading about it, I do remember playing it. I can't give an accurate description of it. I do remember having some cool things that you can do with your soldiers. Like you said, he owns a little paramilitary. But the gameplay was very fun. I like the idea that we can have some co-op. And also the story just seems so significant that I'm actually really upset that I missed it because there's just a lot of things in there that are just game changers for the whole series. So if you missed it, I mean, it's definitely, you got to go back and play it or else there's just going to be a lot of holes.
Right, and I'm really looking forward to doing that, Dylan. But we're coming close to the end of our show, our first episode. Got about 7 minutes left. Let's end it on this note. What is your favorite Metal Gear moment ever? You can only pick one. It can be from any game in the series.
Oh, that's a really tough one. Wow. There's a lot of content to pick from with that. That's very tough. Can I turn the same question over to you while I try to think of that?
Yeah, you can, actually. My favorite Metal Gear moment, by and far, would have to be the end of Metal Gear 1. Because there are 2 endings to Metal Gear 1. It was one of the first games to ever do that. And Metal Gear 1 being my favorite game in the series, I mean, it just fits perfect. But I like both of the endings. Because you either save Meryl or you don't. And it's either Meryl or Hal Emmerich Otacon that you save. And both endings are just so well done. You know, everything just comes to an end at Shadow Moses. There's no salvaging anything from the wreckage. And you're kind of on a mountain on a snowmobile, and you just look back at it, and it's just one of those things. It's one of those games, one of the few games that's ever done this to me, that I just didn't want it to be over. And I couldn't believe it was over when it was. But then they give you either stealth or a bandana that gives you unlimited ammo, and you get to go through the whole thing over again. And I just, you know, at the time, and even now, I think that's one of the coolest things that's ever been done in a video game.
I'm going to have to actually, after talking about that, I'm going to have to go with Metal Gear 3. The ending of Metal Gear 3, when you defeat the boss, the most legendary soldier to ever exist, you defeat her and you become the boss. And if anybody knows the story, these two were very close, very, very close. Big Boss was the boss's apprentice. You know, he learned everything he ever known from her, and he could not figure out for the life of him why she would defect over to the Soviets and help them build a nuke. It didn't make any sense. And if you look into it a little bit closer, you find out that towards the end, that she made a tape for Snake. And it turns out that she was actually helping. She was there to help Snake, and she knew that her time had come and that he had to become Big Boss. So she sacrificed herself for the better and fooled him the whole way around because she couldn't let him know what her plan was. But that was the ultimate story behind it, was Big Boss sacrificed herself to save it and to create Big Boss because the world needed him. And now that's another thing that I'm very curious to know throughout Peace Walker and everything else is why did she do that? This is a legendary soldier. She's far beyond, her intelligence was way higher than anybody can conceive. So why would she sacrifice herself? And that was a very significant moment after you knew everything tied together there and you knew what was going on. And then also you get Otacon that jumps up in your helicopter and plays Russian roulette with you, which is just a phenomenal ending too. It's very cool to see that as well. I don't know if you remember that or not, but the Russian roulette that you played with Otacon, or not Otacon, Ocelot, up in the helicopter as you're leaving was very cool as well. So that was a very significant ending for me, and I really enjoyed it.
You know what? This is going to create a lot of problems for me because now we're going to play Peace Walkers, and then I'm going to have to go back and play Metal Gear 3. So I'm just going to be on a Metal Gear binge, and I've been wanting to go back and play Metal Gear 1. It's been, holy shit, it's been a good probably 7 years since I played Metal Gear 1 the last time. Mm-hmm. And I think in the light of, the new game coming out, maybe I will go ahead and go back through the entire series again. Why not, Yeah. I think we should both do that. Definitely. So I expect continued Metal Gear discussions in our podcast. We're definitely going to have one next week after we play some Peace Walkers.
With an hour, we couldn't even touch anything on this at all. This topic we haven't even scratched the surface of what Metal Gear is. So I definitely think we need to hit upon this way more. And if anybody enjoyed it, please let us know. We want feedback. If we're just harping on Metal Gear for no reason, you guys want to hear about something else, let us know. We'll throw it into the show, definitely.
Well, also, next week when we do it, we'll stay specific to Peace Walker and try not to deviate too much. And we'll let you guys know what we think about it and if you should buy it and what we like and what we don't like. I know that one of the things I'm not going to like about it right now, I can tell you, is the fact that it was made for PSP and now it's being ported. So, not ported, also somewhat redesigned, but I think a lot of the areas are going to be pretty barren because it's on such a big screen from a small screen. That's the one gripe I've heard.
Right.
But overall, I think it's going to be one of the better games in the series. I'm excited to check it out. But anyway, Dylan, this is going to wrap up the inaugural episode of Super Smith Brothers. Join us next week. We're going to be here every Saturday. I guess 7:30 is going to be the start time. And,
absolutely.
We'll be here discussing games, what we like about games, our game of the week, just everything gaming. And feel free to give us a call, guys. The call-in number is on the Facebook that I put out. If you're listening, I'm sure you saw it from my Facebook. We're also looking to join some Facebook gaming groups, so if you know of any, feel free to send us invites. We want to get more into the Facebook gaming community and hopefully make this podcast grow even more. Real quick before we go, I need to let everybody know that the Wrestling Religion Network is sponsored solely by Sean Swisher, who is the leader, owner, and operator of Team Getting Fit by Beachbody. And Sean Swisher is your own personal fitness coach. He offers his advice, meal plans, workout plans, specifically generated for you by him personally for free. He will coach you at no charge, but he also offers some great materials like P90X, Shakeology, and Insanity to help you get your ass in shape and get the beach body you've always wanted. You can check out Sean Swisher at teamgettingfit.com, or you can send him an email directly at bigswish7777 at gmail.com. We want to thank Sean for being our longtime sponsor for the Wrestling Religion Network. As always, be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the MMA show by my co-host on False Finish Wrestling Radio, the Maple Leaf Maverick Macney Show. Don't miss False Finish Wrestling Radio from this past week, featuring none other than the Star Maker Kenny Bolin. We had a great discussion about Jim Cornette, about Daniel Bryan, The Undertaker, Wade Barrett, The Attitude Era, WCW, Southern Wrestling, the Jim Cornette Experience. We talked about my swollen testicle. Lots of things going on that show. It was a great time. I really enjoyed Kenny Bolin's company. You can check out Kenny Bolin at kennybolin.com and check out some Beats by Bolin. He delivers some awesome headphones custom made for your pleasure, and they're the most reasonably priced high-end headphones available anywhere. Other than that, I think I've covered everything. I also want to reiterate that the next Thursday there will be no episode of False Finish Wrestling Radio. I'm going to go ahead and say now that we will do the Super Smith Brothers show next week because we'll need to. But False Finish Wrestling Radio has been canceled due to my medical issues. I want to get a week off and kind of gather my thoughts and get fully recovered and get back to work and get in the swing of things, and then we'll pick up right where we left
Play
off.
Some Peace Walker.
Dylan, yeah, I got nothing but time to play video games right now, so it's a perfect time for this podcast to launch. But Dylan, thank you so much, man. We've talked about video games for years, and finally we're actually putting it to practice, and I had a lot of fun, and now we can actually argue in front of people instead of, privately on the phone. So hopefully this will be a good outlet creatively for both of us when we talk about video games and have our debates that we've had for so many years.
Right. Looking forward to it.
All right, bud. Well, I'm BLS. He's DRS. We're signing off. Thank you guys for listening to the Super Smith Brothers podcast.